Steve, if you could talk about the 2 or 3 key tax trends you're picking up in Asia.
Well, everyone's very interested in BEPS. I mean, BEPS. I mean, I've been involved in international tax for over 30 years, and this is the first time in my career where fundamental issues, fundamental aspects of the international tax architecture are being thoroughly reviewed. And you know, the BEPS process has just started. No one really knows what's going to happen, but let me give you my particular opinion. I think it's very likely that the OECD will meet their deadlines. They've got a very clear plan. They've got key deadlines for the different particular actions. They've got a budget. They've got all the resources they say they want. So they will definitely deliver on their plan. What's going to be interesting is what happens then, okay? Because it's then going to be up to the 42 governments who are part of this process to work out whether they're actually going to change their law, whether they're going to sign up to this multilateral treaty, for instance. And I can well imagine that some countries might get a little bit nervous, and maybe just some countries are just not capable of delivering because, take the United States, for instance, you know, it's almost impossible for any tax reform legislation to get passed by the US Congress because of the animosity that's held between the two major parties there. So it's entirely possible that we will get to 2016, 2017 and find that BEPS actions or the detailed plans are not implemented. And the question then is, what happens then? And that's when I think the wheel could start falling off and there could be an emergence of some chaos, because I don't think that countries like India and China, the UK, France, Australia, folks who have been very vocal in describing their need to increase source level tax, I don't think they're just going to say, oh well, that was an interesting exercise, let's now shelve it all. They're going to want to have a change of law. And if the US is not capable of coming to the party, there's going to be economic double taxation, and we could enter a very volatile period of chaos. And what's going to be interesting is what happens thereafter. Now, coming back to the here and now, it's interesting. I was on a panel discussion a week or two ago, and one of the topics came up is what should the Singapore government be doing in regard to BEPS? And I said fundamentally Singapore tax authorities should recruit more resources in the MAP space, because my prediction is, particularly with country-by-country reporting, greater amounts of knowledge will be given to tax authorities in China and India and so on. They will be able to see the levels of profits being made by profit centre companies in Singapore and Switzerland and so on. What's going to happen? Well, there's going to be a desire to switch to a profit split methodology. There's going to be a lot more transfer pricing disputation. There's going to be a lot more MAP disputation. Singapore needs to invest in a greater amount of experienced resources in regard to MAP, because that's exactly what's going to be coming down the road.
Steve, would love to hear your thoughts on India versus China. I mean, everyone keeps saying that India is one of the toughest places when it comes to tax assessments, but we don't hear much about China.
Well, it's two different systems. India, everything's fought out in the open, okay? In China, it's not so. India has the rule of law in the sense that tax disputes, tax assessments can be fought through the courts. You can't do that in China, okay? The only time you hear of a tax dispute in China is when the tax authorities publish the story on their website and they talk about a case. Well, it's not really a case in the sense of having gone through court. It's a case in the sense the tax authorities have raised an assessment. Whereas in India, when you hear about cases, these are real cases. These are cases that are fought out, as you well know, through the judicial system. And so what does all that mean? Well, there's a higher level of publicity in regard to Indian tax matters because of this. Everything's being fought out in public rather than China. Okay, with China, it's all stage managed. It's what the SAT wants you to hear. In India, it's It's whatever is happening because it's all getting fought out in public. One thing I would say about India, what is, of course, from an outside observer's perspective, very strange or very frustrating, is the fact that there are lots and lots of somewhat bizarre assessments, aggressive assessments, and I think there are a number of reasons why that happens, including the fact that, as I understand it, the tax authorities, the individuals, are assessed on the tax demands they raise, even if they are bizarre, even if they are perverse. But it's interesting, the court decisions, when you get through the courts, mostly I would call well-reasoned, coherent. Of course, there's always the odd decision that you think, well, that sounds a little bizarre. But there's so many decisions being made that there will be some strange decisions. But by and large, you look at the decision and say, well, okay, that's probably right. Yes, the Indian tax system is not for the faint-hearted. Very different in China in the sense that it's all done behind closed doors. You don't hear about the story except in the way that the tax authorities want to tell you. And sometimes you don't even know whether it's a true story. Because on the website they'll say, oh, well, here was this case involving such and such. Well, was that a true case, or are they just making it up to get a little bit of publicity?
Thanks, Steve, and we love your Deloitte debriefs.
Thank you. Nice speaking with you.